today's episode, join us in reflecting on all of the changes we went through in the last year and what it has meant to us as we prepare for the upcoming year.
Welcome to Heartful Beings, where we bring loving, grounded, and practical perspectives to living a heart-centered life with Janet Uribe and Milena Rodriguez.
This is the place where we have heart-centered conversations and share our own experiences about all things spiritual while keeping our feet on the ground. Take what resonates and nourish your soul.
Hey guys, welcome back to Heartful Beings. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've gone a few months without recording.
Just a few.
Just a few. Milena went on maternity leave.
Yes.
And I went and had another work baby. So it's been really fun because I think the one thing that we both agree on that we've been experiencing has been the fact that we're just going through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And then that's actually something that Milena told me right before we jumped on to record, was that we would be it's a year of changes. I don't know if you want to elaborate, girl, because I know you've been doing this.
I know. I feel like today we're kind of closing out the last year and then going into this next year. It's January right now, depending on what time you're listening to it, going into 2024. And yeah, we've been going through a ton of changes. I had a baby. Our family went from a house of 3 to 4. So that's been figuring out the new patterns, figuring out how to do it, like remembering how to have a baby, like what do you do with a baby, which has been really funny. And then on top of that, I moved to Austin. So then I don't know where I even left off with you guys of where I was on that journey of deciding last year that I was leaving Louisiana and I was going to come here. And then on top of that, I've signed up for working more closely with my mentor to do some more healing work. So that has brought up a whole bunch of things to work on with changes. And then, today I was at the grocery store this morning and I was like, what are we going to talk about today when we record? And all I heard was David Bowie's changes. And I was like, that's it, because it's been a year of change. And we decided that we wanted to start recording again. We wanted to, connect with you guys some more. We got some more services that we're going to be, doing in the next couple of weeks, months. But really, it's just been a lot of changes. And the biggest one that we were talking about just now is how much more we listen.
Oh, yeah.
How much less talking I feel the need to do. The more, and honestly, Janet, is it just because we're also reading energy more or like feeling into people's essence as opposed to just always having to talk?
Gosh,
it just kind of came through. Yeah.
I feel that it's that. And then I also will tell you, it's just a different level of stillness that you get more comfortable with when you do your own level of work.
Yes, that hits.
I know that we were talking earlier too about the fact that, you find yourself talking to someone and they're not relating and you just kind of stop right there because you don't have to share anymore. They're going to be where they are and you're going to be where you are. I would say the only other thing that has shown up a little bit in the last few months have been when I have decided to stand in something. I have had a couple of people or a few people basically not be okay with an aspect of my personality. And it was my favorite experience yet because I wasn't even triggered by it because I'm okay with that aspect of my personality.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying something like this too, right? Like there's a version of us that existed, months ago, maybe in some cases minutes ago, years ago, that felt safer when others were on our page.
Right. Oh, girl, wait, hold on. Let me integrate that for a second. Because that just gave me a whole nother level of where I feel like I'm starting this new year. It's okay. This is what's coming through. It's like the evidence of the growth that me and you have gone through, the choices we've made, the decisions that we've made. Like, I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep more understanding parts of myself. And then how you're talking about how that element of people not being okay, but now that you're okay. Right. And so all of this kind of coming full circle, as like I was saying, like I'm realizing now that if I start speaking about something and that person is not present, it's obvious to me that they're not really retaining or understanding what I'm saying, which is totally fine. I'll literally just stop mid-sentence even sometimes, and that person won't even notice. And I'm like totally okay with that. That's not who I was 6 months ago. I think 6 months ago, I was still somebody that really wanted people to understand and to hear me, and like arguing something sometimes to the point um to force them. It's almost like a, I will make you see my point by the time I leave
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation. That's not where I'm at right now at
Yeah.
all.
And it's fascinating because like I had to ask myself multiple times in the last 5 to 8 years, why is it that I need this person to even be on the same political view or
Uh-huh.
social view
Uh-huh.
or emotional viewpoint?
Spiritual,
Yeah,
whatever.
spiritual, whatever it was. You list it. Why is it that I need them to like oranges more than strawberries? It could be something so trivial. It
I
really
know.
could. But then, something that I witnessed was a lot of people having various bumps and bruises in their relationships with selves or with others over it. And I realized, wait, I think I'm going through that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't resonate anymore. And it was that easy as just like deciding.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes happens so subtly, the decision of not wanting to be like that anymore. And you show up in that decision so often that
Mm-hmm.
it does get integrated.
So that's like a whole level of changes, is deciding the change, deciding what you decide, what you, where you want to go and how you want to get there.
Yeah.
And I was for months, granted, I just had a baby. There's postpartum things, there's hormone things, there's a lot of sometimes angst, that I was experiencing. It's crazy. Like motherhood is like this whole other level of like ups and downs. And where I'm at right now is I'm coming out of a fog that I was in, obviously, not getting a lot of sleep. Self-care is kind of last on the agenda of the day. And if you could squeeze it in, it's like a huge victory. Um, but I was in this like place that was uncomfortable. I loved my baby. I brought her in this world. I was trying to have her. We knew she was going to show up. But then when she came with this force, because she's a strong little thing, super powerful little baby, I had to adjust, right? And I had to go through these changes to match her, essentially, right? And she had to match the new world that she's in. Um, and because I've done this level of work, I think bringing in this baby compared to how I brought in my oldest daughter was like I mean, obviously I was two different moms at this point. Um, and like you said, we change even from hour to hour sometimes, but I could see the strike difference of like how much work I've done on loving myself, on being compassionate, being way less judgmental. Because when I had my first daughter, I was trying to do all these things right, right? And you have these things that you're got to make sure you hit all your marks in a way, was who I was then. And now, even when I was in the uncomfortableness, I was able to work through, with your help, with other people's help too, work through what I wanted to change and how I wanted to be more present with this baby. I wanted to put myself first as much as I could with this baby. I might have just gone off on a little tangent, but
Oh,
that's kind of
girl, but
how it's coming full circle for me.
yeah. And I love that you're going there because I think that's just the thing. I think there's a great difference between I crave the change, I want the change, but I've been sitting here watching you really prioritize things very differently this go round.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it was a COVID situation last time. So,
Sure.
and yeah, but the way that you've been showing up and just standing behind what you've decided or honoring the space that you need to take the nap, or, I, I have to prioritize my being first. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's really just showing up to that. It's like the ultimate boundary. It's the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate self, it's like an ultimate form of self-love. And a lot of times I think that I work with people and there's this theme of I'm unhappy and I'm unhappy and unhappy. But the biggest, like, they're actually the biggest source of why they're unhappy because they haven't learned that they even have the right to put up various boundaries for themselves that prioritize their own happiness.
Or let's even a step further. It was like, do people even think they have the self-worth, or like they even
Oh, yeah.
can be, that they deserve happiness, that they're actually here to experience happiness?
Yeah.
Because we get caught in the when it sucks, right? And like you can't
Yes.
see out and you're just like, this is my existence. And
Yeah.
granted, I mean, there was moments after baby, was born, that I was like, is this my life now? Like, is this where I'm at? And then I had to remind myself, no, this is not going to be forever. And I was getting help from my, spiritual teams and people in my life, and that, helped me get through it. But yeah, it's just changes.
It is. That's it. And like you said, even have the self-worth, even though
Yeah.
you have the right to. I work in after school hours industry too. And so something, I just was committed to the idea, well, it's after school hours only. And you have to work until at least 8:30 to get this amount of kids in. And like I think it was you that told me about 4 or 5 months ago, maybe about 4 months ago, you had this new baby, and you're like, well, girl, then just don't work later. And I thought, that's brilliant. What a brilliant idea. Just don't work
Just
later.
don't do it. Don't do it. And that's kind of even where I went into the holidays. Like, there was all these things that I thought I should be doing, and then I was like, no, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it this year. I'm gonna say no to more things, and it felt good.
Yeah. I had a wonderful holiday too. I actually took off of work pretty completely through matters I could handle and matters that I couldn't. And it was just wonderful. I just
Yeah.
loved it, just being like, this is perfect. I love where we are. So there's just, I would say, like I see between you and I and several people that we know and we love, is that there's a greater level of acceptance
Yeah.
and willingness to accept.
Yeah. And they're showing me, like, right now, like, an authenticity meter, and it's like we just hit a big bump, and just being more authentic, being
Yeah.
more aware, more aligned with who we actually are, cut out from the BS, you
Uh-huh.
know?
Yes.
And I mean, there's still layers to go, but where I am today, in this day, in this body, and in this moment, is that I feel more authentic than I think I've ever felt. More of
Oh,
who I am,
yeah.
more than I've ever felt. And that might change, right? Because
Absolutely.
um the movie Encanto keeps coming forth with that song, and I'm going to butcher this, but there was something about, like, why are we so scared of change when change is the only thing that, like, will happen?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
change is going to happen. It's inevitable. Nothing stays the same, right? So why do we as a human race and as human beings love to fight the change?
It's kind of fascinating, right? Or even there's some of us that like love the change, but love the predictability.
Yeah.
So there's so many different dynamics that I think come in for each one of us, depending on how we are. Something I talked to you about recently was like, I feel like we both have these nomadic types of tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And yours get more so lived out through vacations. Mine get more so lived out through pick up and go.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
let's just figure it out when we get there. Um, and then like you just did your first pick up and go, like the big
And we'll
one.
figure it out when we get there.
And you've been figuring out when you get there, and you realize that, you know, at least here in America, guys, because it is a different world here. But also there are wonderful privileges that we have here to still find things and community and access in America that even are still they're looking to be built out here, and we're looking to make that more accessible to humans in
Mm-hmm.
general. But something I would love to talk about with change is that if your mindset believes that it can have it, then it can.
Yes.
Yeah, then it can have it. So the mindset's a huge component as well. So one of the reasons that we want change and we crave it and we desire it, but we're not seeing it, is because we're stuck in that old psychology of what was. Because the old
Mm-hmm.
psychology is safe, it's predictable. The brain knows that it survives in there. Even if it were to be turbulent, the brain knows that it survives in there. But the
Mm-hmm.
mind wants something else.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you almost can't trust your thoughts.
No. Yeah. This is what I've been telling my clients a lot, in a practice that I've been doing, is that when I want something, I get out of the mind and I drop into the heart space, even as simple as just putting my hand on my heart to, like, connect really quick, and then ask, is this something that I want? And you can almost, like, feel your body react, when it's in your heart. When it's in your mind, you can talk yourself, you can make the list, the pros and cons, and that stuff is so important too, right? Because there is a level of, like, um we don't always need to burn the house down to, like, get something, right? There's times where, like, we do want to have an approach, right? But if we're all mind and not a little bit of that heart too, then, like, yeah, you can the choices and the decisions and what we want can be set back with that old psychology, right? Because it's in
Absolutely.
us. We're constantly working on that.
Yeah.
Me and you know, and
And
those
the
of you listening.
goal, right? The goal of that old psychology or of the trigger that comes up when you're experiencing a new trigger or change, you know, recognizing that there's something within you that would like to be resolved
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't have to keep desiring change. You're just
Mm-hmm.
attracting change when you resolve some of these things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like a good place for us to go into like this upcoming year,
Yeah.
right? This upcoming year, we're really looking at change in various ways, so many drastic ways, many internal changes too.
Mm-hmm.
But your mind will be your best friend
Mm-hmm.
along the way if you
Mm-hmm.
can maintain a positive, stronger mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you have the negative mindset for a moment, that's fine too. You'll learn in that and whatever you attract from there too. Believe me, I do it
Yeah.
from time to time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because when I'm in those negative head spaces and I'm like, oh, I know I don't want to stay here, but I'm acknowledging the fact that I've been stuck here for a couple of weeks or a couple of months,
Yeah.
you know? So then I had to go deeper into figuring out what it was trying to show me. What is it
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
tell me? And then once I even just had the aha moment, which I love those aha moments, the shift happens almost within seconds. It's so cool.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know, those of you, if you're hearing us and it sounds like we're speaking a foreign language, because in the beginning I would hear a lot of people talking about this stuff, but it's not until I experienced it myself that I was like, that's what they were talking about. When you can make that shift, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that I, also think is really important, kind of how I gave y'all a recap of my last year, doing a recap and inventory for yourself of how much you did change, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and like those kind of things, because that'll help call in this next year, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to do inventories because it
The
shows you what you
evidence.
survived.
Yeah.
It shows you what you've created.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you how you're not where you were.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you more of your capacity,
Mm-hmm.
more of your power, and
Yeah.
areas that you want to work on next.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even have to work on it. Sometimes, and this is something that I've learned a lot this past year. Some of my greatest healing, I think that some people will tell you, healing, you have to do shadow work and you have to do, someone else called it gold work. I forgot what gold work is, light worker, and so on, that you have to do all these things. And I've noticed that this past year has been so much simpler in terms of
Mm-hmm.
healing for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
really literally just been changing a behavior or changing an action or deciding and just sticking to it. And
Mm-hmm.
literally, I think that healing, it doesn't always just have to be signing up to really release something. Sometimes it's just creating the opposite for yourself and
Yes.
holding that boundary for yourself.
Girl, that is speaking my language, because one thing I did do a lot this year was, how do I bring more joy, more love, more play? Because for a while, I think I did get stuck in the changes that I wanted to create had to be the dark all the time, right? And honestly, sometimes it's just as little as just bringing in some light, bringing in some joy, um, making a bouquet of flowers, making something just beautiful for a moment is just as impactful as the other, the opposite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or
I love that you said
changing
that. Mm-hmm.
changing your outfit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Changing the walking outside.
Yes.
It's stagnant in here. Maybe you need to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
I was holding Melena's new little baby, my niece, the other day at their house, and she was all feisty. And let me tell you what, guys, this little thing is here to be heard. She is here to be seen.
Yeah, she's
She's here to
big.
be known, and she pierces you when she looks at you. She can see straight into you. It's amazing.
I mean, she
And
reads my mind. It's
yeah,
just crazy.
uh-huh. It really is. She understands what we're saying. It's like, I don't know, what, like a little fairy baby. I don't know. She's amazing. And so she was just feeling the energy of a house. And so we literally just walked outside, and she was tiny. She was 3.5 months old at the time. And she started exercising her arms and legs in celebration of, oh, we're outside.
And it's like
That's
she even knew to like shake it off a little bit,
yeah, she did.
is what she's showing me.
Yeah, it
It's
was
so
so
funny.
cute. But I think
Yeah.
it's that simple for us, and we just kind of get sidetracked sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
And that's another thing of a big change that I've done is being okay with myself when I've sidetracked. Being okay with myself. Like I just got I'm so stuck and I can't figure out what I'll do is just trust that I'm gonna get the information to get past it when I'm
yes.
ready. When I'm ready, right? And I can't, and this is something another big change because I used to be, I'll push through, I'll make it work, I will get it done. Now I have more faith than I've ever had before. Um, that things are just going to work out and they're going to be the way that they need to be. And I'll get the messages that I need to take the next step every time. Like I just have more faith in that than before because before I would be running uphill for weeks completely to the point that my body would just like collapse. I would get sick or I would just be like so exhausted for like 3 or 4 days that like I just missed out on things or I just had to lay down. So honoring that in myself too without judgment, right? But now I found more of a balance. I still need the rest when I need the rest. I know when to push when I need to push more, but I have less of the judgment on that. Does that relate? Do you see what I'm saying on
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the ways that we actually perpetuate stagnation is when we get into judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as many of you have heard or may not have heard, whatever we resist persists. And so
Mm-hmm.
just staying in the, oh, shoot, now I didn't get this done. Oh, guys, let me tell you what, I used to be really good at self abuse. It's just so good at it. Okay. I probably got like an A plus 100 plus extra bonus credit. Look at what I did. But anyway, yeah, the moment I just said, oh, okay, I can see that I'm doing that, or the moment I've heard, I now take criticism from, say, my partner or feedback from an employee, and I just listen because someone took a moment and the universe is taking a moment to also have me hear something.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just don't self abuse if it's something negative,
Mm-hmm.
and I just decide to use it. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, how does this resonate with me? What,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want going forward related to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition, not self abusing. Oh, yeah, I did do that. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I did it.
Yeah. And I still kind of go back and forth because sometimes I'm like, no, I did not. And then I have to take a moment and be like, maybe I did. And that's been my biggest change because when I've come back around and I've been like, okay, yes, that person was actually very correct in showing me something that I didn't want to see, that was uncomfortable for me to see, that I don't want to acknowledge. And I get to that point of like, okay, they were right. Instead of self-abusing of like, God, I should have done better, I should not have done that, I should have known, I should have blah blah blah. I'll just come back full circle now and be like, thank you for showing me that about myself. Thank you, universe, for giving me this experience so that I can see that now of like, that's an area that I don't really like and I want to change. Or opposite sometimes. Man, that was pretty kick ass. I liked that version of myself. That was amazing. Like I liked that. Um, so I guess ending on these messages of like what we've learned this year is I've been just more kind to myself. I've accepted the changes more. I've accepted the fact that we flow, right? From highs. I mean, the other day you were like, how are you? I was like, I've had the highest highs and the lowest lows all in the last 24 hours. And I'm cracking up laughing because it's giving me this beautiful picture of like where I am at my life. And it's totally okay.
I think that's just the thing is that it's not and it's like a human condition.
Yeah.
But I think that when we resist the feelings and just resist the lows, like, that's it, it's not supposed to be like this. That's like saying it's not supposed to get dark outside.
It's not supposed to rain. We need the rain to water the plants in the ground. You need it. I love the
Yeah.
rain.
Yeah, I do too. And I've been embracing a lot more of the ups and downs. One thing I've also noticed that has changed lately is I'm not blowing dynamite up my partner's butt these days.
Yay.
That's been something different that I've just been watching. I'm like, huh, I wonder where that person went. But it started happening after I started identifying more of my authentic self.
Interesting.
Yeah. And more of my virtues and values that I align with, and deciding to own them and show up with them more, as opposed to poor baby.
Yeah.
Get ready. I don't think I feel like I have to tell him get ready. Who knows? Down the road there might be something that pops up and then I'll
Hmm.
insert here. But
Hmm.
but right now today it's been just it's been really calm. And I can also make peace in knowing that in my personal calm, I've been having tons of clients that have in dynamics that have been blowing up for people, of pain or discomfort or feeling unseen or unheard or uncared for or unnourished. So I'm really thankful that I've had this calm to hold space for a lot
Yeah.
of individuals that need it, because you and I have our own mentors that hold it for us,
Yeah.
and we hold it for each other.
That's beautiful because I do think, you don't have to have necessarily gone through exactly what the other person's gone through to hold space for them. But
No.
there's something about when somebody comes to you, whether it is a client or a friend or a family member, and they are in this vulnerable place, and you, as the other person, can just be silent, can just hold space, can just be and sit with the person, whether they're having the worst day ever or the best day ever.
Yeah.
Right. That's beautiful connection. That's empathy. That's compassion. That's um, something that I've strived to do more in my relationships, right? How do I do
Oh,
that more for my
absolutely.
kids? Right. Like with
Absolutely.
kids, because with kids, you're trying to like let them survive another day, right? Especially the older they get and the more they get into things. But how do I hold space for them to also be their authentic self? Right.
Yeah. I think the thing is, if you're holding the space for you to be your authentic self, then by natural
Yes.
exchange, you do that for your children and others. And I think
Yes.
that's the thing that's been it's very much made me, I think, a more compassionate and empathetic person, is the fact that I'm now giving myself more compassion
Hmm.
and giving myself more empathy and
Yeah.
and reverence, whereas before I didn't show up with these things for myself. I only did it for others and then sacrificed, which today I
Is
can see
off
that,
balance.
yeah, today I can see more of that self-sacrifice was actually a, a coping mechanism to create more safety systems for myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's been something that I think has been coming up as a theme for humanity is safety.
Yeah.
So many of us um, don't feel safe some of the time, most of the time, or all the time, depending on where we're at in the world. So how can we create safety for ourselves? Because that's been something I also went through with my changes of last year is where do I create more safety in the physical world, in the emotional world, in the spiritual world, and who I want to be, where I want to be with my family. That was, I think, honestly, the biggest reason, I had to
Yeah.
move and create a life just elsewhere for a little bit.
Yeah. And like what resonates, it resonates with me because I went through similar things, right? In terms of
Hmm.
doing safety in those areas of life. But I'm telling you, friends, these last few months, just off of a few concepts based around authenticity and really working to love myself as I am,
Hmm.
safety's been growing, and just trusting that I'm safe with me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
not
just
so
safe
much
with
of
me.
the outside, but it's
Yeah.
like within yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So now there's a lot less necessity. I won't say that there's no necessity, but there's a lot less necessity for other individuals to behave a certain way or to believe a certain thing or say a certain thing or show up a certain way for me to feel safe.
Yeah, here's another component of the safety too that is coming through, um, is the self-abuse.
Mm,
We would, if we're self-abusing ourselves, then we're not going to feel safe with ourselves, within our own body, within our own skin.
nope.
And that comes from the deep, deep internal parts of ourselves. So as me and you have been working on not doing that self-abuse so much, showing ourselves some compassion, safety has an opportunity to even show itself, right?
Oh, yeah, it
Because it didn't
absolutely
before. There was
does.
no opportunity. If we're just self-abusing ourselves all day long, which was where I came from, you know, safety didn't, there was no space. There was definitely no space.
Yeah. Yeah, there really wasn't. And I think that's why I always used to be more of an over talker too. Because
Mm-hmm.
when the moment there possibly was that silence or space, I was going to fill the void.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with dialogue.
And they're showing me too, that's a just, it could be used as a tool of distraction.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, when when I first started therapy, it was very uncomfortable to sit in silence or quietness. Because I came from a chaotic childhood. Chaos was my friend. It was comfort.
Hmm.
It was what I thought was safety. And the quiet and the stillness was very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
um,
I relate to that a lot.
yeah. So these are such cool examples of how much we have changed
Oh,
in the
I
last
love it.
year.
And like, I just want to thank you, Melina, for I think sometimes you can go through this and other people don't see your changes or other people are uncomfortable with it, so they bail.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I just want to thank you so much because you're this family member that at a time when I was going through such immense changes, you're like, hold on. There's something to this. Like she gets to do this. This is permitted. This is permissible. And I think
Yeah.
that I needed that from you and another really close mentor of mine to just know, you know what? I don't need my whole village because my people, like my village, will show the further that I discover myself.
Yeah.
They'll just show. So I just want to thank you, Mama, for
Horse girl.
doing that for me.
That was the moment when you went through that mass life change. That was the moment where all of a sudden our connection just boomed.
It did.
Like it was just like, this is why we're in each other's lives. It was for this moment and on.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so
Because
wild.
we had known each other for a while, but like didn't really
Yeah,
connect
we
until that
didn't.
moment, and then I needed your help, girl, navigating the whole thing that I went through of like, who am I? This is crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on in the world. I didn't know who I was. I didn't, and you were the one that I would just call midnight, 7 in the morning, noon. Like, it's only noon and my whole life is upside down. I don't know what's going on. So I want to thank you too, because as we do this podcast and we are now sharing with the world our realness of what we're going through on a day-to-day basis, you help me. I'm gonna start crying. You help me find the realness within myself, that I didn't even know was possible.
Mhm.
And I was even telling this to a client, y'all, the other day. Who I am now, I can't even express. I didn't even think, it wasn't even on my radar. Like, it wasn't even something. So when people tell you to have the faith and to trust the process, because what you think you want to call in isn't even what's actually available to you, is
Oh
like
yeah.
the truest thing.
Yeah. Because we'll come at it from such a limited viewpoint just because
Yeah.
in human minds,
Yeah.
we're limited
We are.
at times.
So I'm letting
Yeah.
go of the wheel even more this year, is what I want to call in. I'm calling in more faith. I'm calling in more love. I'm calling in more beauty and more courage and confidence. I think we could all use even more confidence,
Yeah, I agree. And like that confidence, that's something else. I think that when we were starting this, there was a little bit of an imposter syndrome that was showing up at moments like, who am I to address individuals?
I haven't said imposter syndrome in a couple of months. I just
Yeah, I
realized because
haven't
I was
either.
saying it all the time.
Yeah, I almost forgot what it was. I had to think about it a few days ago to share it with another client of mine that's about to launch a business. And I was telling her, yeah, I remember what it's like to go through that. But friends, when you can just honor and look at the changes you've already done,
Yes.
look at the homes you don't live in anymore, look at the new people you've acquired or let go of along the way, or even if you're mad at an ex-partner or something and they're not even in your life anymore and you didn't like them all that much anyway. There are things that we've brought in as change, but that brain sometimes can be an mf'er that's just like,
Uh-huh.
don't you remember what was?
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautifully said. So I'm excited, Janet. I'm excited about this year coming up. I just feel this like burst of energy that a lot of us are going through right now in January. Even with some of my clients, even with my families and my friends, like I can just feel this like surge of like a lot of us are gearing up. So
Yeah, I feel that
I'm
too.
just
I
really
feel like
open.
I wonder if you're feeling this. Like this last week, I was feeling for some of my clients. Look how I
Yeah.
gave myself a facelift so that I can say this. um, now we know that they could be higher. That basically, like for those of you individuals that are deciding change this year, those of you who are deciding on an endeavor, those of you who are making this a year about growth, or that are just deciding to love yourself more or show up for yourself in ways that are loving to you, you have every type of team member and energy and star. Everything is behind you.
Yes.
That's the one thing I feel really confidently this year. Everything is
Yes.
behind you. And for
Yeah.
those of you who have seen some of our episodes where I'm like, the dynamite, that was me just blowing up stuff because I was the one getting in my own way.
But
Maybe
sometimes you need to blow things up, and when
it
you
would
do, you
listen,
will.
it was a little fun along the way.
It always tells for good stories, right?
Yeah, it was a little fun along the way because you learn a lot more when
Yeah.
you learn a lot more.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
love that.
Well, beautiful friends, lovers, friends, earth humans, and non. I'm sure I can't wait till we find those things out soon.
Oh, is this going to be the year you think?
I feel like it's late 26, early 27.
You think? I know I feel like we're so close
I
and
do
I'm just ready to
too.
rip the band-aid, but that's me also
I
trying to
mean,
blow shit up.
I think it's already here in a way. It's
I
just
mean, it is. It
yeah, I
is.
just don't think there's as much like a public display until 20 or late 26, early 27. But
Like when
for
it's just
all of you,
known.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, yeah, don't you know?
This is my
It's
alien
common
friend.
knowledge.
This is
Yeah.
my alien friend.
Uh-huh. I was channeling last night, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But for all of you guys, we've loved you. I know that I've been missing doing this,
I have.
and we were talking about taking a little hiatus periodically, which will pump out a bunch of episodes and take a little hiatus. It's kind of fun because you come back so different.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of fun for you guys as audience members because you can see how much change can transpire in just a short time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't need to take a long time. It really doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. But I think it's in a way it's more noticeable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. Well,
Thank you
lovers.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was great. I'm so glad we're back. I'm so excited for this year. I'm so excited to keep growing. And like I said, we're going to have some new services and things popping up. We're going to start a monthly container. So there'll be more information for that as me and Janet figure it out. But we just know this is the year we're going to do it. So,
Yeah. So come play with us, guys, in
Mhm.
real life settings with your real life questions. We're here to support you.
Yes.
And it's a collaborative effort of what we're doing here for all of our friends and families on earth here and beyond here. Believe it or not, a lot of this relates to beyond here too. So for those of you who want to come play with us extra and really meet with us live,
Yes.
come on.
Ask questions, get healing, whatever,
Yeah. So it's the heartfulbeingspodcast.com, or excuse me, heartfulbeings.com.
Yes.
I'm on Spotify. Wait, no, I'm on YouTube. Wait, no, I'm on the internet, on the interwebs. Where are we?
Heartfulbeings.com. We'll have more information soon on there.
All right, lovers, we love you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody. If you liked what you heard today and want to see more about our offerings and gifts, please join our email list at heartfulbeings.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Heartful Beings.
Please note that our perspectives and views of the following content are ours and are not necessarily substitute to our holistic views and approaches to healing. Both of us believe in the numerous support tools available to all, which include and are not limited to therapy, mental health treatment, medical, prescription, and other types of traditional or alternative healthcare.